What's going on, guys, and welcome back to the Adventure Outpost. In today's adventure, we are journeying back 65 million years ago to the land of the dinosaurs. That's right, this past weekend, Jurassic World Dominion hit screens, grossing over $142 stonking million in its opening weekend, crushing in a way that only Jurassic World knows how to do. So I thought in today's adventure, we are going to dive in and rank up all of the Jurassic World franchise and Jurassic Park franchise into one stonking video here, and we'll see which ones I hate, which ones I love, and we'll rank them from worst to best. But before we get into that, if you haven't done so yet, please consider subscribing to this channel and hit that like button so we can battle that fucking algorithm and we can keep on partying the way we like to party. But we are going to kick this list off with the worst Jurassic World movie yet, and that is Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom.
That is one big pile of shit.
The perfect weapon for the modern age.
Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom is easily the worst of the bunch of this entire franchise. It is a movie that has no idea what it wants to be. It is a story of two halves. The first half on the dinosaur island with this volcano, and the second half trying to be this little monster movie inside of a mansion. It's just overblown. It's bloated. There's way too much shit going on in it. It has no idea what kind of a movie it wants to be. There's no central theme to the movie as it goes on. It is simply just a misfire on all counts. I feel like it gets its characters wrong. It has no idea what it wants to do with Owen and Claire. They are just all over the place. It gives Claire an out at the end of the movie that I don't think she deserved. It was the first one that showed that they literally had no idea what they were doing with this new trilogy. It was just like it had the classic problem of most Jurassic Park movies after the original. It's just like, what is the justification for this movie existing? And this was the one that felt so egregious out of all of them, where it was, we've got no reason. We've got no answer to that question. We're making another one because the last one made the most amount of money ever. I think Jurassic World was the first movie to hit like 500 million worldwide in like a record amount of days. So of course, like, we're making this one because we want to make that money again. So this one is the most surefire misfire. I have a video from way back when where I attempt to fix Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. I might try and plug it into a card here, or if I get lazy, I don't, and maybe I'll just link it below and you could find it that way. We'll see. But if you want to check that video out, I go into much more in depth on my problems with this movie in that video. Up next is Jurassic Park III. I gotta go to my 5-film collection here to show off Jurassic Park III because I don't have it on its own. This is a movie that is not terrible. We've gotten out of Fallen Kingdom is the only Jurassic World and Park movie that I like actively dislike. The rest of them have stuff going for them that puts it a little bit better. It's not something that I would say would be a great movie, but it's not a terrible movie. And Jurassic Park 3 is one of those ones that falls into that category. It has a lot of good stuff going for it. I think the idea that they just wanted to make this kind of race against time, tense thriller was a pretty interesting idea for this type of movie. I like that they decided to go just completely different from what Steven Spielberg did with it and try to just make this a quick, like, 90 to 100 minute thrill ride. I'm all for that. Where this movie falters for me is the majority of its characters, the fact that you didn't find a way to bring Laura Dern back in a bigger role. I feel like she's very just relegated to 2 parts in the whole movie, and that kind of like bums me out. And that you didn't find a way to bring back Ian Malcolm. The fact that we had to wait until Dominion to get the 3 of them back together in a Jurassic Park movie seems like a huge missed opportunity in my eyes. Second, and probably the biggest sin that this movie makes, is that there's no ending to the movie. There's no third act. It just ends. And it's apparent when you look into more of the behind the scenes on this movie, because this was one of those movies that was just plagued with production issues, and they were constantly rewriting and writing the script while they were making the movie. It's all over the place. But the fact that they just have this really awesome set piece with the Spinosaurus, where they're going down in a boat downriver, and this huge set piece happens with it, and they wind up getting away from it, and then they immediately get into a scenario with the Velociraptors where they have to give back the eggs, and then the military just shows up, and they're like, "Hey, Laura Dern sent us. You all right?" And they're like, "Yeah." And then we find out that the dude who we thought killed by pterodons is still alive, and you're just like, "All right, cool. Movie's over. Hope you had fun." And you're like, I feel like you were missing 20 minutes of a movie here. Like that's your ending. It's one of those movies that just that ending kills me for this movie every time, and it's just something that I can just never get past whenever I watch this movie, and it keeps me from being able to rank it any higher. Probably though the best positive that we can give for this movie is this greatest scene of all time.
Don't move. Bigger. Why do they always have to go bigger?
Up next is the newest Jurassic World movie, and that is Jurassic World Dominion, crushing in movie theaters right now at this very moment. This is a movie that is still plagued with a bunch of issues that Fallen Kingdom was plagued with, but I think that this one had a much better story, at least in the second half. I think its second half was much better than Fallen Kingdoms, and at least it had a much more cohesive narrative. The narrative was still all over the place. The screenwriting issues I might actually even do it too. Might go into a whole separate video just going on to all of the writing issues that I had with this movie and the structural issues. But that being said, I still think that the narrative that they played with is still something that was serviceable. It was fine. I think some tweaks here and there would have definitely helped exponentially make this movie a little bit more easier to stomach on my end, and maybe moved it up in the rankings a little bit. But the story at a basic level, I can get down with. It was definitely much better than Fallen Kingdoms. I think that one of the best things that this movie does is it had some of the best usage of legacy characters in this new world of these reboots where we bring back legacy characters, and they end up just like being crap to service the new shit that you want to push. Like, look at like Obi-Wan, look at what they did to like Luke Skywalker. Like, Star Wars is probably one of the worst offenders right now. But they do it in everything. Anytime they make like new movies these days that want to bring back your legacy characters, I feel like the legacy characters are always shortchanged in a way that just to push the new people. But this one did a really good job, I think, at using them. I liked that the legacy characters weren't just there to put over our new characters. They had their own storyline, complete own storyline that just happened to intersect with our main ones at the end of the movie. I thought that was a very interesting and good usage of these classic characters in this new world. It felt like they belonged there and not just shoehorned in there to help push our new characters. So I really appreciated that. The special effects work in Dominion was fantastic. The practical effects work for the audio animatronics on these dinosaurs looked incredible. They did very good work with that, and I was always very concerned because like you didn't have a lot of it in the first Jurassic World, and I didn't like that. And then you had a little bit more in Fallen Kingdom, but it was still bad. But this one had some phenomenal fucking practical effects work on it, and that boosts it up very highly for me, along with the second half of this movie. Once everybody reaches where they're supposed to be going, and the whole like separate plots start to intersect with each other, the movie gets like very entertaining and is a very roller coaster ride. There's still some structural issues I have with it even in those systems, but I can appreciate it and turn my brain off and enjoy that section of the movie as a fun blockbuster roller coaster ride. if only they could have like squeezed and condensed in that first fucking half of the movie, I think this movie would have risen a lot higher in my rankings and might have hit into the top 3. But the structural issues from Fallen Kingdom are still there that keep this movie a little bit more down for me and keep it like right here in the middle of the pack. But taking third place is Jurassic Park: The Lost World. I got to show it to you here again because we don't have a separate one on its own for The Lost World. This is a movie, obviously, I grew up with this movie. This was one of the first movies I ever saw in a drive-in theater. I've grown up with this movie my entire life, so obviously there's a little bit of that nostalgia factor for it, where this movie speaks to me a little bit better than most of these other movies. But even if I separate that whole growing up with this movie, I still think this movie holds up very well today. It has a lot of really thrilling segments to it. Yeah, it has a lot of silly shit to it, but I think it has a pretty decent cohesive narrative for what they were trying to do with this sequel. Telling the story of there being a Site B where they would raise the dinosaurs before they would bring it over to the mainland where the park would be. John Hammond enlists a team to go in and try and help and protect these dinosaurs from InGen, who are going in and want to use these dinosaurs to monetize it and bring the mainland park to the actual North American continent. I think that's it's a solid structural narrative. You could say whatever you want about some of the sillier segments in it, but that is a cohesive narrative. It is a cohesive timeline. It is about a 2-hour long movie. That is tight right there. And it's a movie that only Steven Spielberg knows how to do. Just his shot selections always help elevate a movie past what it could be. Even something like The Lost World, which could normally fall down in people's rankings, I think it's elevated simply because of the man behind the camera. He's my favorite director of all time. I think he is the most influential director of all time, and the way that he shoots his movies, to me, are just so special. The scene where the 2 T-Rexes attack the freaking convoy when they have the baby T-Rex, I think is one of the most thrilling and intense sequences put to film. It is so tense. It still to this day holds up. It is so freaking great. I love that scenario. The first half of the Velociraptor attacking the grass, I think, is great. The second half, not so much, when it starts to turn into a Looney Tunes cartoon almost, and the gymnastics girl kicks one out of a window. It gets pretty silly. That's if you take that part out, the rest of the movie holds up. I love the T-Rex attack on the camp when they run into the waterfall. Just his usage of shot selections is really good. And I even like the ending where it's had the T-Rex stomping through San Diego. Like, that was such a good taste of the future of what Dominion would hold, that it's great. I know it just feels tacked on to the end of this movie, and honestly, you could probably cut it and you might not, and you wouldn't lose anything here, but it's still a fun sequence. It's a fun sequence to just turn your brain off and just enjoy. Most of these Jurassic World movies are just like, turn your brain off and enjoy. And I'm not saying I need Academy Award level writing here, but I just need my narrative to be cohesive. So that puts this movie up here in the 3rd place spot for me.
Close the gate. Are you crazy? Hey, just trust me.
Close the gate!
Taking the runner-up spot is Jurassic World. This is a movie that is better than it has any right being. This is probably the closest spiritual successor we've ever gotten to the original Jurassic Park. It is a roller coaster ride. It is just a fantastic summer blockbuster. It's still the same things that you could say about most of the other ones, with its structural problems and some silly narrative choices are all there. But I think that this movie eschews most of that concern with just being such a adventure movie. Like, I think the spectacle of what you appreciated from the first one is present in this one. I enjoy that we follow it mostly through these kids, where they're coming in to see this fucking park for the first time, and it's their experience as they're there, and all hell starts to break loose on this park. I really also, I think this is the only movie that had a really good character arc for Bryce Dallas Howard as Claire, where she's going from being this corporate stooge that thinks of these creatures as just numbers on a spreadsheet to becoming a fully fledged individual who cares about not only her nephews and human beings, but seeing these creatures as the creatures and animals that they are and having that newfound respect for them. I think this is the only movie that actually has a character arc for her. Owen Grady's just there to look cool and train raptors. He doesn't have much of a character arc, but he's not somebody so much that I think needs to. But I think there's a lot of fun to be had in this movie. The biggest gripe that I have with this movie is the idea that the government would be like, we're going to weaponize raptors. That is one of the dumbest fucking ideas I've ever heard in a movie. It's just no. It's not. I can't buy that. I can only believe so much nonsense in a movie. That's some double mumbo jumbo right there. And if you want to know what double mumbo jumbo is, then you should head over to the Link Podcast, who just dropped our huge episode today of us diving into screenwriting, where I dive into all of the details of screenwriting and what goes into writing a movie. So if you ever wanted to learn more about the behind the scenes and how such a movie like this would get written, head on over to his podcast and check out that episode, where you will learn all of the great terms, all of the insider knowledge, and just exactly what double mumbo jumbo is.
Hold on to your butts.
But there can only be one. And obviously, I think it's everybody's number one. Anyone who made a Jurassic Park video this week ranking all these movies, I'm sure this is their number one. It's the fucking OG. It's the classic. It is Jurassic Park. I don't think you could find anybody who would ever try to say that any of these other ones is better than this movie. I could see maybe some people saying the first Jurassic World, simply because the younger generation grew up with that movie, whereas we grew up with this one. But I think anybody who looks at it, anything at a structural level, a screenwriting level, at just a perfect filmmaking level, this one has to be the de facto king. It is just incredible piece of work. Everything that it did for this future of special effects is incredible. The storyline is incredible. The characters are incredible. Easy character arcs. Alan Grant doesn't like children, doesn't want to be around children, gets stuck in a rampaging dino park and must take care of children. That's perfect right there. That's good. That's a great character arc right there. And it's something simple. It doesn't need to be something insane. It could be something as simple as this man learns an appreciation for children. It's just a great movie. There's so many classic, iconic moments in it. It is just one of those perfect pieces of storytelling. It is a one-of-a-kind movie. It's something that will never be replicated again. No matter how many of these we make, nothing will ever touch on the spectacle and majesty of the first Jurassic Park, mostly because it was just lightning. Some of those movies are just lightning in a bottle. It was right place at the right time with the right writer, the right director, like Steven Spielberg. I mean, come on, nobody's going to make a Jurassic Park or World movie the way Steven Spielberg would make a Jurassic Park movie. So right there, you're at a disadvantage. This is the de facto king. I could go on all day about how fucking incredible this movie is, but like everyone, we all know how great this movie is. We've all seen it. We've all grown up with it. We've all been watching it since 1993. We know the majesty of Jurassic Park. And that is my ranking. Jurassic Park and Jurassic World is a pretty interesting franchise. It's had the highest of highs, the lowest of lows. I think most of them, with the exception of the first one and Fallen Kingdom, kind of just fall into that middle tier right there. It's an interesting film series, but I think if there's something that we can all say for it, it's definitely one of the more entertaining franchises that we've had throughout our film history. Even though I shit on the majority of these movies besides the first one, I still could watch any one of these movies if you put them on, with the exception of Fallen Kingdom. Any of the other ones you could throw on, and I'll find stuff to enjoy out of it and enjoy from it. I think this is a fantastic franchise. I love how big it's become with the music. John Williams created an incredible score for this franchise. The work that Steven Spielberg did onto this movie, that Joe Johnston added with Jurassic Park 3, that Colin Trevorrow added with these Jurassic World movies, I think it has been definitely one of the funner franchises that we've had throughout film history. I love that it's got a theme park section. I can go to Universal Studios anytime and go into the Jurassic Park world, ride Velocicoaster, ride the River Adventure. There's just something to be said about this franchise that I think speaks to so many people, that's given it such a legacy throughout these years. And I mean, hopefully maybe we get another Jurassic Park movie, down the line. I think this will probably be, the cap for the characters that we've seen now in Dominion, but who knows? Down the line, I could see them making another one, and I'll be in line. Of course, it's Jurassic Park. I'll be there, even if I complain. I complain about everything, but I'll be there. But that'll do it for all of us here at The Outpost today. Let me know down in the comments what's your favorite Jurassic Park movie, what your rankings are, if you've seen the new Jurassic Park Dominion movie yet, and what you think about it. I want to hear it all in the comments. Until next time, though, you have been you. I have been me. Get out and go see Jurassic Park Dominion, or Jurassic World Dominion, whichever fucking one you want to call it. And until next time, adventure on.
That is one big pile of shit. 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 That is one big pile of shit.